My name is Gregory Wanamaker, and I'm the composer of The Space Between Us, the title track for Akropolis Reed Quintet's forthcoming album. I have composed a lot of chamber music for wind instruments, and the nice thing about writing for a reed quintet is that it combines the intimacy of a chamber ensemble with the range potential of a large wind ensemble. In addition, the timbral palette allows for the exploration of the organ-like quality of the unified quintet, as well as the possibility of highlighting the differences between the individual instruments. Akropolis's first album, High Speed Reed, is probably the first collection of music for reed quintet I ever heard. And I think I grabbed that the year it came out and was excited a couple years later to listen to Unraveled, which is their second album. I have since, or really during that time, also spent some time listening to Califax Reed Quintet, who I believe defined the idiom, and also my old college roommate has a group called the Atlantic Reed Consort, based near Washington, D.C., and I've listened to them quite a bit. Hi, John Romano. Anyway, I like creating music in which spontaneous energy is so constructed within the score that it is easily communicated to the performers, who will then naturally unleash this energy upon listeners in a live setting. Of course, I want my music to be recorded too, and I'm lucky to have several commercial recordings of my music available, but nothing beats a live performance. And Akropolis performs with an exciting energy resulting from their high level of technical virtuosity, their sophisticated approach to interpretation, and their adventurous programming, and their commitment, of course, to commissioning new works. Capturing performance energy as an essential part of a composition is pretty tricky, and when I'm not working directly with performers, I focus on critical and comparative listening to see how this energy unfolds. A complete understanding of the circumstances surrounding a composition and the circumstances surrounding a specific performance is essential for the composer, as well as for the performers and for the listener. Now, as far as specific musical materials are concerned, I like using a combination of things. I like a combination of improvisation as sort of a catalyst to generate some musical ideas, but I also like to sketch out loosely applied motives that, with loosely applied serial techniques to also help me generate some musical ideas. Now, for me, the compromise between these two polarities allows me to explore several various tonal and rhythmic languages within a single work, while maintaining some motivic connections or other musical devices to bring unity to otherwise contrasting musical discourse. Akropolis's saxophonist, Matt Landry, approached me via email about a year and a half ago to discuss the possibility of composing a work for Akropolis's upcoming tour and album. Now, having followed Akropolis through the recordings for a few years at that point, I was excited to be invited into their musical space, and Matt offered the prompt, The Space Between Us, as a starting point, suggesting that it may refer to the relationship between the audience and the performer. So I viewed this a little bit differently. I viewed the prompt as an opportunity to explore ever-changing relationships between people of all types, whether they are performers or listeners, students and teachers, family members, lovers, strangers. And all of these groups share the common bond of a connection through various media, from face-to-face interaction, phone calls, email, internet, and unifying world events and knowledge of history. You see, the space between us varies. We're always closer than we think, even when we might maintain a physical and psychological distance. Now, events of many types bring people together. Concerts, of course, but negotiations, meals, celebrations, reunions, and funerals. And at these gatherings, people generally become one in spirit and in dynamic. And every one of these events offers the opportunity for people to reflect upon the past. Perhaps to reminisce, perhaps to meditate, perhaps to remember those who cannot be present, perhaps to mourn. And when these engagements are over, people rediscover the constant space that exists between them as they part to continue their lives individually. And these events may change a small aspect of their beings, their perspectives or their physicality, for example, but on the whole, people tend to remain who they were and who they are, even as they continue upon the path of who they will become. So, in terms of form, The Space Between Us is a piece in 5 interconnected movements that explores all of these relationships through language, texture, color, and harmony. The first movement, Coming Together, is a short prelude that uses serial techniques that alternate hocketing gestures, which are little motives that are traded between instruments. And they alternate in this movement with short homorhythmic interjections. And this unstable texture resolves very quickly to a very consonant B-flat and as one, where the instruments act as a single entity in tonality and drive. The third movement is called Remembering, and it's a very slow contrapuntal movement that is modeled loosely after a 16th century motet. And it's based on a short, simple mode of a descending semitone and a cambiata figure, which is a common melodic device in 16th century music, and a little ornament called a mordant, this little kind of a neighboring tone. Very simple ideas to create something that is very complex and very, I hope, moving. The fourth movement is called Ever Constant, and it's abstractly based on the opening section. Yet in place of serialism and unstable textures, the instrument's interplay features a very simple 5-voice counterpoint using very simple repeated gestures, and it's in a basic song form. And the last movement is called The More Things Change. It returns to the largely consonant material from As One, except that it begins in a very, very different place tonally and modulates until a very, very strong resolution at the end. Throughout The Space Between Us, there's reference to each member of the ensemble as an individual entity, but the overall emphasis is upon their interactions with each other through counterpoint to create a single unified soundscape. The work is approximately 17 minutes in duration and was composed specifically for Akropolis Reed Quintet. I hope you enjoy the work.